The Leominster City Council meeting is funded in part by DeCarolis Insurance Agency at www.decarolisinsuranceagency.com.
Before we commence the public hearing, I'm going to ask that we all observe a moment of silence in remembrance of Ward 1 Councilor Gail Feckley, who of course recently passed away, and who we lament this evening. So if you would join me in a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. Councilor Frida, before you begin the 6:50 p.m. hearing,
Your thing, I got you those.
I want to let you know that you'll see in the agenda that we have some committee work for you this evening, of course, and that as a result of Councilor Feckley's passing, I have rearranged the committees a bit. So the Public Service Committee is now consisting of yourself, Councilor Frida, as chair. That remains. Councilor Cormier is the clerk, and now Councilor Shalafo-Zephyr is the third member. So I just wanted to point that out as you begin your 6:50 p.m. hearing.
All right, thank you. We all set?
Yes.
Okay. 73-21. Massachusetts Electric Company doing business as National Grid requests to excavate the public highways and to run and maintain underground electric conduits together with such sustaining and protecting fixtures as it may find necessary for the transmission of electricity. Said underground conduits to be located substantially in accordance with the plan filed herewith, marked Mechanic Street and Mount Pleasant Avenue, Leominster, Massachusetts. The following are the streets and highways referred to, plan number 303-63626, Mechanic Street and Mount Pleasant Avenue. Rebuilding manhole number 5 at the corner of Mechanic Street and Water Street. Installation of conduit under the road going east down Mechanic Street toward Mount Pleasant Ave to a new manhole number 5373, about 250 feet. Installation on about 300 feet of conduit from manhole 5373 up Mount Pleasant Street to new manhole 5372 on customer property for switchgear to be used in renovation of downtown underground system in the future. Will also be coming off of pole number 3 with conduit about 100 feet to manhole 5372 and out of transformer number 3 about next to manhole number 5372, about 100 feet to go across the street and service customer-owned HH on private property located at the rear of number 37 Mechanic Street. I believe I heard Mark Tapley coming in for National Grid on the prior to the hearing. We've got some issues with this, so I'm going to go right to Mark and let you give us your understanding of what's happening with this so far.
Yes, I'm here. So I've been working with the DPW. I've worked with the wire inspector, and we have been working to try and get the underground systems installed before the city had done their final coat of pavement. And about a week after I got the notification for this hearing, I was informed that that day the city had gone and paved over or done one of the final coats over here. So the work we're doing is to service 37 Mechanic Street. This is to get power to him, to his property, where we have to bring three-phase power over to power elevators and other equipment that he has on site. And this is also for the switchgear project that we've been working on, getting ready to put into place to renovate the downtown Leominster underground facilities to convert them into a real underground system versus what could be almost construed as a big URD, which would just be. So we're trying to install a new manhole on Mechanic Street and bypass manholes 4A and 4 that are currently there due to their small size. And if we were to expand those manholes and make them bigger, there's potential that we could damage the foundation of number 37 Mechanic Street. Our civil survey shows that other side of Mechanic Street has space for a manhole.
Okay. Is you done with that explanation?
I mean, that's what we're doing here, and I mean we're aware that to proceed at this point now, we will have to do curb to curb repaving of the area.
Okay. Yeah, I understand. I agree with everything that you said needs to be done. I drove to the property. I know the back of Brady's will be serviced. I saw, what your description is, and I also looked at the paving that's been done. And what's happened in the past really doesn't matter at this point. But I think there's got to be a clearer understanding of DPW communication with you, because we were seeing clearly mention that the gas, National Grid Gas is digging up for the lines, and I think asked for the two of you to coordinate. Somehow that message got lost somewhere, and I think that probably would have saved a lot of issues here. I mean, we're talking substantial money for you to repave, and I know the DPW would like to have that done this season, in the fall. So, and I know you've had discussions with them, and I think there's probably agreement. I would like to see, and I'll defer to other members of the committee at this point. I would like to see a letter coming from National Grid committing to the cost of repaving, and that will definitely be done by the fall to satisfy the DPW at this point. Is that something that there'd be a willingness to do?
I would say yes, but I would have to speak with my supervisor first. I know he's pretty much on board with doing whatever we have to do to get this in place. but I would need to speak with him first and get his
Right.
approval.
That's
And I mean,
understandable.
if the passing of this has that stipulation that I have to get that signed, then I'll go to him first thing in the morning, which I intend to do.
Well, and that's what I would like to see happen. I would like you to talk to the DPW, get a range of the cost, because I know it's thousands of dollars. Get a range of the costs that you both agree on, that everybody agrees on, that will be absorbed by National Grid once the project is done. I mean, we need that for the downtown. There's no doubt that this is a worthy project. That's not even a question. It's just, I mean, it's been waiting so long to get that paved, and it's perfectly paved now. It looks really nice, and to think of having it be dug up is kind of a sad commentary. So if everybody can agree and you're on board, and it sounds like National Grid is, I'd just like to be sure that that's in writing and everybody's agreeable to that. And if that's okay with National Grid, it should all work. At this point, do you have anything else to add, Mark, before I go on?
No, I don't. I mean, I want to talk to my boss. I can relay through Scott Farrow, that yes, we'll get that in writing to you, and then we'll get it to you as soon as possible.
Okay. All right. So let me go to members of my committee to see if they have any questions. With, I believe, Councilor Cormier at this point.
Hi, Mr. Tapley. I just have a couple of questions. Do you have a timeline for if this gets approved, when you would start this project?
We're trying to get it going as soon as possible. It's in its final approval stage with my boss right now before it goes to scheduling. So this hearing was the final piece for his approval. So anything I have to do here, I just have to go into my civil sketch, adjust the cost in that on our side, and then he approves it, and then it goes down to any easements or scheduling at that point.
Okay, and how long, once you get started, how long to complete? Because I'm assuming that this is basically going to shut down that portion of Mechanic Street completely.
I'm not sure on how long it will take to complete. I don't know how long it takes them to put the manhole in or put the conduit for the distance that it has to go.
Excuse me, Councilor Cormier, it is 7 o'clock, so I'm going to start the meeting, and then I'll entertain a motion to recess so we can continue this public hearing. So if you'd all rise with me so we can recite the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
which is
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll now take a roll call of the councilors in attendance, starting with Councilor Frida.
Present.
Councilor Dombrowski.
Present.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
present.
Councilor Angelini.
Present.
Councilor Ardinger.
Present.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Present.
Councilor David Cormier.
Present.
And I shall be recorded as present. We have 8 members of the council present. Does the senior member of the council have a report on the records of May 10th, 2021?
I do, Mr. President. I had a conversation, just a couple of minor corrections with the clerk, and they're ready to go. All set to be filed.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'll now entertain a motion to go into recess.
I'll move.
Councilor, I think I heard Councilor Pauline Cormier with the motion. Do I have a second?
Councilor David Cormier.
Thank you. All in favor of recess, please indicate by saying yay. Yay.
Yay.
Anybody opposed? Okay, we're in recess by a vote of 8-0. Councilor Pauline Cormier, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Tapley, I'm sorry, and I understand it's hard to give us a definite of how much time it would take. I'm just wondering if you can give even an estimate. Is this going to be a week, 2 weeks, a month?
I really don't know. I haven't done any projects this complex with the underground system in the past before, so I'm not familiar with the timeline for installing the manholes or all of the duct that goes with it. I would say it shouldn't be more than a month of work, but I could be wrong, and I can get an updated timeline from our civil supervisor when I send in a agreement.
I think that would be very helpful. Thank you. Mr. President, I don't have any further questions.
Okay, Councilor Frida, I'll send it back to you as chair.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Anybody else
Yes,
on the
this
council?
is Council Shalafo Zephyr.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I do have a question. Is part of the project, do you include a traffic plan or traffic management plan?
I don't typically. That's usually with. I would only do that on a DOT road. I can draft one up, but I do not know if the civil crew will use that or not, or if they will bring their own traffic plan with that. Because with our civil, when we arrange for the civil, we indicate whether or not they need the police there or not, and I indicated that they'll need the police there in my estimate to them, so they usually will get that police plan in place.
So whoever is doing the work on the road will, or whoever is the project manager, I guess, will contact the Leominster Police Department to work out the traffic flow, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, that's very important because that's a very busy area, that intersection. I think it's Mount Pleasant Avenue and Mechanic, and just that stretch of Mechanic is very busy. And it's important that traffic flows through there. So, okay, as long as that's part of the overall project. Thank you.
Okay. All set, Councilor?
I am, thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else that has any questions or comments before I go to the public? Okay, if not, is there anyone on the line that wishes to speak in support or against petition 7321? Again, is there anyone who wishes to speak in support or in opposition to 7321? For the third and final time, is there anyone on the line that wishes to speak in support or in opposition to 73-21? If not, I'll declare the public hearing for the public closed at this point.
Okay.
Mark Tapley, if we're in agreement, I'm going to give this further time. And as soon as you work out the details with the DPW and forward a copy of that to the council, and we can look at that and have it on the next agenda for a vote. That work?
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. You're welcome. Thank you. All right. So, Mr. President, the recommendation is to continue the public hearing.
Okay. Very well. Did you want to check with your committee members now, or did you want to wait till we get into the agenda? I assume they're okay with that.
So you want to check now?
I'll poll
fine.
them. Yeah, we can do that. Councilor Pauline Cormier, are you okay with further time?
Yes.
And Councilor Shalafo Zephyr.
Yeah.
So unanimous recommendation of public service later on the agenda will be for further time on, what do we have, 73-21. Thank you, Councilor Frida.
You're welcome.
Okay, we will now conduct the public forum. The public forum is an opportunity for any member of the audience to speak on a matter specifically listed on the council agenda. Speakers will be asked to come to the microphone and state their formal name and address, along with identifying the specific item or items they wish to address. Each speaker is respectfully asked to keep their comments within a 2-minute time frame. The council will not be responding or answering any questions. However, at the discretion of the council president, clarification may be given. Is there any member of the public that wishes to address the city council in the public forum on an agenda item? Once again, is there any member of the public on the line that wishes to address the city council on an agenda item? And a third and final time, is there any member of the public that wishes to address the city council on an agenda item? Hearing none, I'll declare the public forum closed. We are back in session, and we are now on Roman numeral 4, council reorganization, election of a successor vice president. I will say at the outset that, of course, we are all deeply saddened by the loss of Ward 1 Councilor Gail Feckley. We're all, I think, in a state of shock and very sad over her loss. She was a fine colleague, and a little later on this evening, we'll have an opportunity to remember her at the close of the meeting. Councilor Feckley, as you all know, served as our council vice president for going on 5 years. Very good at what she did with respect to the review of our minutes, as well as spelling the president when necessary, either for debate or for conflict, and clearly demonstrated the importance of the office and position. And with complete deference and respect for her and the value that she created in that position to make sure that the position is filled. And that's what we're about to do. So that being said, I would at this point solicit any nominations for successor vice president to fill the vacant position of vice president.
Mr. President, before you continue, could you explain why we are doing this? I don't believe that it's called for in our rules or in the city charter.
I have thoroughly reviewed our rules, the city charter, Mason's in ordinance, and any other general law as well. There is a position of vice president that is established for our city council, and it is an important position, as I just outlined. It is part of the succession should something happen to the president, either in a temporary nature or something more significant. And it is a position that needs to be filled, and that's what I intend to do.
Mr. President, this is Councilor Shalafu Zephyr.
Yes.
The charter includes very specific, I think this is important for any public that's listening, and I think it's particularly important for the record. The city charter has very specific language, as do the rules that the city council has adopted for its own procedures. And the charter has very precise and specific language about electing a president and vice president. And I'm going to read from that. I will quote, "The city council shall annually, on the first Monday in January, or on the day following, when said first Monday is also New Year's Day, meet for the purposes of organization. City clerk, or in his absence, the member present senior in years of service and in age, shall preside at such meeting. The city council shall elect from among its members by separate roll call votes a president and a vice president." So that's the language from the charter. That's the language that is basically essentially the same that's in the city council rules. So the charter does provide for the filling of vacancies in the event that a council member can no longer serve. And is very specific. It does not include any language about replacing a vice president in the event that the vice president cannot serve. So, I guess I have a couple of questions, and that is, first of all, is there precedent for this? And secondly, if the charter and our rules are silent on electing a vice president or reorganizing, I guess, why is it necessary to proceed in this way? It's inconsistent with our charter and with our own rules.
Okay, one by one precedent. The last counselor to die in office before Councilor Feckley was Councilor Wayne Nickel, who essentially died after the first meeting in December when there was no second meeting in December. And in fact, Councilor Feckley succeeded him when the council was reorganized in January after Councilor Nichols' death. Before Councilor Nichols' death, you have to go back to 1965 for a councilor who died in office, and I have no idea whether Mr. McGain was a vice president or officer of the city council or what they did at that point. So that's I was 9 years old then. That was a long time ago. Now, with respect to the charter and our rules, because they are silent with respect to the issue we're dealing with this evening, doesn't proscribe us from going forward and filling the position. I see no harm in doing that, and I think it would be to the contrary. It would be to our disadvantage as a city to not have a clear succession with the right people in place to handle that kind of a situation should it occur in the next few months until we get to that January reorganizational meeting. Because it's not prescribed and because the position is important and because we need a clear path should something happen, I'm going to take the position that we're going to fill the vice president's role. Any other questions? Okay.
I just have one more. I just have one more comment. I understand what you're saying, and it's your point of view, but to read this on the agenda on a Thursday when we hadn't even buried our colleague yet seemed to me to be awfully disrespectful. I think the fact that our charter does not require us to have a special election for a new counselor for that position. I mean, if we're talking order of importance, we're talking about a ward that is going to be void of a representative until January. And the rest of us at-large councilors will probably take over the majority of questions that might come our way because of that. But to not respect, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, not anybody else's, my opinion, her nameplate, her title, and the vice president title should remain on that desk with the flowers that are going to be there for her and the buntings that will be there for her to remember her. And that should stay until there's a replacement. There's the past few weeks, it has worked. When you've had to recuse yourself, Mr. President, it came to me as a senior member. It's few and far between that you have to recuse yourself, and it'd be few and far between that you would have to speak to an issue. And if you do, there's a process in place to be able to handle that. I don't believe that we should be having power struggles at this point to put somebody in there that's going to want to be possibly a president in January or be looking down the road. I think we should be more respectful to Councilor Feckley and leave that seat open. At the very least, we shouldn't be discussing it within a week of her passing. And I just find that to be a little callous and a little disrespectful of us as a council.
I take total and complete umbrage with what you just said. This is not disrespectful to Councilor Feckley in any way, shape, or form. Let's start with the name. Councilor, I have the floor. You will be silent and listen. Okay?
Yeah,
the name, you will be silent or you will be muted. Okay? I have the floor.
That's fine.
I have the floor. You understand?
Don't be patronizing.
I have the floor. Please be quiet.
And you can be a little more respectful as well.
I take great umbrage in what your remarks were just uttered. First of all, the nameplate was removed by her family. Do not insinuate that the city clerk or any member of the city council had anything to do with that.
That's,
That was
yeah,
her
okay,
family's request, and the city clerk honored it. That's number one.
okay.
Number two, the city clerk arranged for the arrangement to be put on her desk. I paid for it out of my own pocket. That's number two. Number three, you actively solicited the position of vice president as recently as this morning. Okay? So let's put the cards on
And
the
I
table.
take umbrage with your comment.
You read
I
the
take
tea
umbrage
leaves.
with those
You
comments.
read the tea leaves. You don't believe you've got the votes. Now you want to turn to a different tactic. I'm not going to let you sit here and play this game. Point of order.
Really
There is no point of order. That's the truth.
Yeah,
You deny it, Councilor
there is
Frida.
a clear
Okay?
point of order.
You deny it. Deny it, Councilor Frida. Deny it. Deny it.
You tell me who I was talking to. You want to talk about your colleague that's called every counselor except
Deny
a few
it.
of us? I had a conversation with Councilor Dombrowski. That was my conversation. That was,
Okay.
there was no, and you can't find,
Any
you
other
can't find
questions?
anybody else that I spoke to.
Any other questions?
You want to throw accusations, you better make sure that they're right.
Any other questions?
I have no questions.
Okay, I'll solicit nominations for the office of vice president.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Angelini, at this time, I would like to place the name of David Cormier into nomination for the vice president position.
Councilor Angelini. Is there a second for that nomination?
I'll second that.
Councilor Pauline Cormier, second. Are there any other nominations for the office of vice president?
Yes, Mr. President,
Yes, Councilor Dombrowski.
Councilor Dombrowski. I would nominate Councilor Frida to be vice president. She's the most senior member of the council, and I believe under the circumstances, it would be the appropriate person for this position.
Is there a second to that nomination?
Yes, there is. This is Councilor Shalafu Zephyr, and I second that nomination.
Very well. And that nomination is seconded. Any further nominations for the office of vice president? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the nominations.
So moved.
Councilor Arninger, do I have a second for that?
I'll second.
Councilor Pauline Cormier, second. Any discussion on that motion?
Yes, Mr. President,
Yes?
my name will not be in nomination for this. The discussion that I had was not to seek nominations. It was to be an active senior member in case there was an issue without having a vice president in place. It was not actively seeking as the councilor's nomination that's in place right now has been seeking. So my name is not in nomination.
You're withdrawing your name from nomination?
I am. Because
Okay.
it wasn't intended to be there for that purpose.
Okay. Any other discussion on closing the motion that's on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor of closing the nominations, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The nominations are closed by a vote of 8-0. Okay, so we have one nomination, Councilor David Cormier. This will be a roll call, starting with Councilor Frida.
No,
Councilor Dombrowski.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Nay.
Councilor Angelini.
Yay.
Councilor Ardinger.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
I shall be recorded as yay. Councilor Cormier, you are elected vice president by a vote of 6-2 as I tally it. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. The city clerk will send you folks the new committee assignments later this evening by email. I will tell you, because we have Ways and Means and we have Finance and Legal Affairs, I think, matters on the agenda left. The Legal Affairs Committee is unchanged. The Finance Committee is unchanged. The Ways and Means Committee does have some adjustment. So the Ways and Means Committee Chair is now Councilor Frida. The clerk remains Councilor Dombrowski, and the third member of Ways and Means is Councilor David Cormier. Okay, moving on to communications from the mayor, starting with appointments.
Excuse me, Mr. President, point of order.
Yes,
Council Shalfo Zephyr, I think that the vote was 5-3, 5-2. No, I'm sorry. Was it 5-3 or was it 6-2?
I believe I have Councilor Frida and you as nay.
Correct. Okay.
And I
All
have
right.
six.
That was
I
my
have 6
mistake.
on the affirmative.
Okay.
That
Sorry,
anybody
that
else
was my
have
mistake.
any? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right. You're welcome. All right. Moving on to communications from the mayor, starting with appointments.
Appointments. Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, request the appointment of Leon Cristoforo, Leon Cristoforo to the Historical Commission, term to expire 4/15/2024.
Referral of that to Ways and Means.
Regular course, Mr. President. Let me just ask the clerk, is this a reappointment or an appointment?
It came through the mayor's office as an appointment.
I believe that's correct, Councilor Frida. He may have been on the commission years ago, but I don't think he was on
Okay.
it. There was a hiatus.
I remember his name being on before. Okay.
That's
I
why.
believe it's
maybe we
replacing Muggsy.
Okay, maybe we do need to have an interview then. You could arrange the interview, Clerk.
Absolutely, I have it down for our June 14th meeting at 6:40 p.m.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to
Okay, yep.
communications from the mayor again now. Madam Clerk.
This is for another appointment. Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, request a confirmation of the permanent appointment of Jennifer Reddington to the position of Comptroller for the City of Leominster for a term of 3 years, effective June 21st, 2021.
The appointment of Jennifer Reddington to the office of Comptroller is referred to the Chairwoman of Ways and Means.
Yes, Mr. President, regular course with interviews set up for 6:14. And it's smudged out of my agenda, so I'm not sure what time that is.
6:35,
I
I
read it.
apologize.
Okay, 6:35. And we need to get a resume. I don't believe I have one. I don't know if we have one yet in the office.
I can request one from the mayor's office.
Yeah, we'll need that for the interview process. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. The appointment of Jennifer Reddington has been given regular course with an interview set up, and the city clerk will secure us a resume. Moving on to orders, starting with C85.
C85, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, request that an appropriation of $1 million be made to the street resurfacing expense account, the same amount to be transferred from the stabilization fund.
C85 is referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. First time on the calendar, regular course.
Okay, C85 is given regular course. Mr. Chairman, I don't know if it's available, but could you check in to see if there's a street list that's, if any of that money's earmarked yet?
Yes,
I think
that
the council
is.
would probably be interested in knowing that.
Yes, absolutely. That is pending right now. We're waiting for that back from the mayor's office.
Okay, very well. Thank you. Moving on to C86.
C86, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, request that an appropriation of $100,000 be made to the library building and grounds and books expense account, the same amount to be transferred from the salary and wages account regarding repairs and upgrades.
C86 is referred to the Chairman of Finance.
First time on the calendar, Mr. President, regular course.
Very well. C86 has been given regular course. Moving on to emergency preamble, starting with C84.
Did you want me to read it before we vote on the emergency preamble?
Yeah, why don't you read it, and then I'll have the chairman make some kind of a prima facie showing for the emergency preamble, and we'll vote on that.
Okay.
Mr. President, if I may, both C-84 and C-91, I do need to abstain from because they do involve fire department overtime, and I have a family member on the fire department, so as usual, I need to
All right.
abstain. Thank you.
Okay, so noted. All right, Madam Chairwoman, if you could read C-84. Madam Clerk, if you could read C-84.
C-84, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, request that an appropriation of $100,000 be made to the Fire Department overtime account, the same amount to be transferred from the stabilization account regarding supplemental appropriation.
Okay, so Clerk of the Committee, Councilor Pauline Cormier, could you give us a brief explanation as to why there's an emergency here?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we had a similar situation come up, and I can tell you that C-84 and C-91 are similar. This is a supplemental appropriations for overtime costs. They don't want to spend their salary and wages accounts. These are overtime costs associated with the fire department. In a letter that we had accompanied this, it's overtime costs. It's money spent to date is related to normal contract obligations, 6 recruit members in the fire academy, 1 activated for military leave, 1 member on long-term sick leave, 1 member requiring duty injury coverage. And if anybody's seen the news lately, there has been 3 very serious residential fires in the city. Our neighboring town, Fitchburg, has also had a number of serious residential fires where we have had we've had to aid in them as well. So this is just going to fill that gap for that overtime on both C-84 and C-91.
Very well. Okay, so we'll vote on the emergency preamble first, of course. I'll do that by roll call, starting with Councilor Frida.
Yay.
Councilor Dombrowski.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Angelini.
Yep.
Councilor Ardinger.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor David Cormier is abstained, and I shall be recorded as yay. The emergency preamble passes by a vote of 7-0. And I guess is there anything else you wanted to add, Councilor Cormier, relative to the passage of C-84 that you haven't said already?
No, Mr. President, for all the foregoing reasons, I'd ask that it would be my recommendation that we grant this evening.
All right. Councilor Angelini, you in accord?
I am indeed.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-84. Is any further discussion? Hearing none, this will be by roll call, starting with Councilor Frida.
Yay.
Councilor Dombrowski.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Angelini.
Yay.
Councilor Ardinger.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
I shall be recorded as yay. C-84 is granted by a vote of 7-0. Does the clerk have an order?
I do. Just a minute. Order that the sum of $100,000 be made to the fire overtime account, the same amount to be transferred for the stabilization account. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the order, please say yay. Yay.
Yay.
Anybody opposed? By a vote of 7-0, the order has been adopted. Moving on to C-91, I believe we've already heard the basis for the emergency preamble. Unless anybody has any further questions or the acting chair has any more to offer, I can solicit a roll call vote on the emergency preamble.
I would ask you to do that vote, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Cormier. Starting with Councilor Frida.
Yay.
Councilor Dombrowski.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Angelini.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier. I'm sorry, Councilor
Yay.
Ardinger.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
And I shall be recorded as yay. emergency preamble is passed. Councilor Angelini, are you in accord with this one as well?
I am.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-91. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, this will be by roll call, starting with Councilor Frida,
Yay.
Councilor Dombrowski,
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr,
Yay.
Councilor Angelini,
Yay.
Councilor Arndinger,
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier,
Yay.
and I shall be recorded as yea by a vote of 7-0. C-91 has been granted. Does the acting chairperson have an order?
I do, Mr. President, order that the sum of $100,000 be made to the fire overtime account, the same amount to be transferred from the fire department salary and wages account. Move for the adoption of the order.
Very well. You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the order, please say yay. Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? The order is adopted by a vote of 7-0. Moving on to C-87.
C-87, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, submitted the proposed CDBG budget action plan for the city of Leominster, year 47. Mr. President, I made a mistake. I got caught up again on the word budget, and it should really go to Ways and Means instead of Finance.
Yeah, that is how we have traditionally done it. Okay, not a problem. So this will be referred to the Chairwoman of Ways and Means.
Mr. President, regular course, and we have to establish a public hearing for 6/14 at 6:45.
Very well. Would you want to take a vote on that now?
Yes.
Okay. You've heard the request to establish a public hearing on C-87 on June 14th, 2021 at 6:45 p.m. Any further discussion? All those in favor of establishing the hearing date on that date and time, please say yay. Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? Hearing date and time are established by a vote of 8-0. Moving on to resolutions and C-88.
C-88, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that the City Council accept the North Main Street Alteration Project Resolution.
C-88 is referred to the Chairman of Legal Affairs.
Regular course.
Very well. C-88 has been given regular course. Moving on to C-90.
Mr. President, point of order.
Yes, Councilor Frida.
Resolutions generally with Ways and Means as well.
Yeah, I do believe you are correct on that as well. So we will redirect that to Ways and Means. And that will also ring true for C-90, unless anybody has any objection. All right, so I will redirect C-88 from Legal Affairs, sorry, Councilor Dombrowski, to Ways and Means. Councilor Frida, Chair.
Yes, Mr. President, regular course.
Very well. C-88 is given regular course. Moving on to C-90.
C-90, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that the City Council adopt the resolution to authorize the superintendent to submit the statement of interest form to the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
C-90 is referred to the Chairwoman of Ways and Means.
Yes, Mr. President, regular course.
Very well. C-90 has been given regular course. And moving on to C-89.
C-89, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, request that the City Council adopt the attached home rule petition regarding police detail reform.
Where did this go the last time? This is the second time
That
around
should
for
be
this one.
That should be Ways and Means as well.
Did that come through your committee the last time, Councilor Frida?
I wasn't chair, so I can't
No,
recall,
no,
but I
Can't. Okay.
It went through
All right.
legal last time,
It did.
this one specifically, because it was requested from Natalie Higgins' office and the mayor's office, so we popped it through legal.
Okay. Well, we should probably leave it the same if that's the case. So on that information, I will refer it to the Chairman of Legal Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regular course with referral to the police chief and the mayor, and need to schedule a public hearing for June 14th 2021 at 6:50 PM.
Okay, any discussion on that by anybody?
Yes,
All
Mr.
those-
President,
Yes,
Councilor
Councilor Frida?
Frida.
Yes,
I'd like to get an explanation from the representative's office as to what happened to this last time.
I did have a discussion with the representative last week, Councilor Frida, and I had indicated to her that she should send in a letter to give us an overview of what happened with this the last time. I believe we'll be receiving that.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay. All those in favor of establishing the public hearing on this, on C-89 for 6/14/2021 at 6:50 PM, please indicate by saying yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? C-89 has been given regular course and a public hearing has been established by a vote of 8-0 at June 14th, 2021 at 6:50 PM. We have no petitions first time on the agenda. We are now matters before the City Council, starting with the financial report, if there is one, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I did get a little information today from the mayor's office. They are starting to be able to get some of these things to us now that it's been a bit since Dawn has passed away. So I have been told that we will have spent $7,685,096 from the stabilization account. And there will be some more information coming at the next meeting about free cash. I've been told today to be expecting an appropriation to be coming, and when that does arrive, then we will have those figures in writing, and we will act on it then. So that is the bit of information I have right now from the financial report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any questions?
Yes, Mr. President, I have a question. At the last meeting, I requested an explanation as to why there was a difference between the takings on Route 12 from the 450 to 500 and some odd thousand, and I think the finance chair was going to get an answer for that.
I have not gotten that information as of yet. As soon as I do, I will pass it on. I do not have that information as of now.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see if we can get it and distribute it perhaps before the next meeting. All right. Let's move on to finance then and C-79. Is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-79, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that an appropriation of $250,000 be made to the sidewalk expense account, the same amount to be transferred from the stabilization fund. There was a request for a list of sidewalks, and we did receive that, and everybody have that. If not, it certainly is record with the clerk's office. It does explain exactly the money, certainly we do approve seems that they can be more ADA compliant and things of that nature, and also just after many years of wear and tear, routes that lift the sidewalks and things like that, there's always some money available to make them a lot safer and user friendly. I think it's a good expense of taxpayer dollars, and I will request that we grant C-79, and I'll ask you to check with members of my committee.
Very well. Councilor Pauline Cormier.
I'm sorry, Council President, ask her one more time.
Councilor Cormier.
I agree.
Okay, and Councilor Angelini.
I'm in agreement as well, Mr. President.
Very well. You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-79. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, this will be by roll call, starting with Councilor Frida.
Yay.
Councilor Dombrowski.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Angelini.
Yay.
Councilor Ardinger.
Yay.
Counselor Pauline Cormier,
Yay.
Counselor David Cormier,
Yay.
and I shall be recorded as yea by a vote of 8-0. C-79 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, ordered that the sum of $250,000 be made to the sidewalk expense account, the same amount transferred from the stabilization fund. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the order, please say yea. Yea.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? The order has been adopted by a vote of 8-0. Moving on to C-80. Is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President, C-80, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requested an appropriation of $12,000 made to the council expense account, the same amount to be transferred from the stabilization fund. This is regarding city council advertising budget. We were advised by the city clerk that we did have quite a bit of advertising that we had to do this year. I got blamed for some of it, the stop signs, but also there was a big chunk of this was for the petition that came down last week as well. So there are normal expenses that, we are obligated to comply with advertising, and we're running a little short and need this money to take care of this for the rest of the fiscal year. So it would be my recommendation that we get C-80, and I'll ask you to check with members of my committee.
Very well. Counselor Pauline Cormier
I agree.
and Counselor Angelini.
I will make it unanimous, Mr. President.
Very well. You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-80. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, this will be by roll call. Counselor Frida,
Yay.
Counselor Dombrowski,
Yay.
Counselor Shalfo Zephyr,
Yay.
Counselor Angelini,
Yay.
Counselor Ardinger,
Yay.
Counselor Pauline Cormier,
Yay.
Counselor David Cormier.
Yay.
I shall be recorded as yea. C-80 is granted by a vote of 8-0. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, request an appropriation of $12,000 be made to the council expense account, the same amount to be transferred from the stabilization fund. This is once again regarding city council advertising budget. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the order, please say yea. Yea.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? The order is adopted by a vote of 8-0. Moving on to C-81. Is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President, C-81, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that an appropriation of $40,000 be made to the police department salary and wages account, the same amount to be transferred from the collective bargaining expense account. This is regarding some shortfalls. I did talk to interim chief Aaron Kennedy today, and we had a good discussion, and he basically explained to me, I'll break this down really quick, there's $5,000 on here for salary and wages to cover sick payments until the year's end. So what that item is there is in the collective bargaining agreement, the personnel take time off and it can be paid. They get a certain amount of time off if they haven't been out sick, or they take the cash in lieu of the time off. And I'm assuming because of COVID, a lot of people didn't have any big plans to go anywhere or do anything. A lot of the men and women over there decided that they wanted the cash payout in lieu of time off with pay. So hence the city has to live up to that end of the agreement and pay them, and that $5,000 is the little bit of money that they need to cover that expense. The $23,000 is for standard holidays to cover buybacks. That was because there was some retirements, and once again the collective bargaining agreement required them to make a payment for various personnel that retired. And the $20,000 was for the educational differential, which is also known as the Quinn bill. And what happened is there were some promotions within the department, and the personnel that were promoted were covered under the Quinn bill. Therefore, because of the promotions that happened in the fiscal year, they had to spend more money to fulfill their obligations under the bill they planned on July 1st of 2020. So that is the explanation for this extra money. And it would be my recommendation, since this is all collective bargaining and we do have an obligation to it, it would be my recommendation that we grant C-81. I'll ask you to check with members of my committee.
Very well. Councilor Pauline Cormier
I agree.
and Councilor Angelini.
We have to honor our obligation. I'm in agreement as well, Mr. President.
Okay, very well. You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-81. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, this will be by roll call, starting with Councilor Frida,
Yay.
Councilor Dombrowski,
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr,
Yay.
Councilor Angelini,
Yay.
Councilor Ardinger,
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier,
Yay.
Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
I shall be recorded as yay. C-81 is granted by a vote of 8-0. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, ordered that the sum of $48,000 be made police department salary wages account, the same amount to be transferred from the collective bargaining expense account. This is regarding shortfalls in those accounts, and I move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adopting the order, please say yay.
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 Anyone opposed? The order is adopted by a vote of 8-0. Moving on to C-82, Mr. Chairman, this is the ratification of a emergency preamble.
Yes, Mr. President, C-82, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requested an appropriation of $100,000 to the police department overtime account, the same amount to be transferred from the stabilization fund. This was in regards to preventing negative overtime, and we just need to ratify this. Once again, a lot of this was due to the police reform, and they had to pay some overtime in order to get training and things of that nature. So it would be my recommendation that we ratify C-82, and I'll ask that you check with members of my committee.
Very well. Councilor Pauline Cormier
I agree.
and Councilor Angelini.
I'm in agreement as well, Mr. President.
Okay, you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to ratify C-82. Any further discussion? This will be by roll call. Councilor Frida,
Yay.
Councilor Dombrowski,
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr,
Yay.
Councilor Angelini,
Yay.
Councilor Ardinger,
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier,
Yay.
Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
I shall be recorded as yay by a vote of 8-0. C-82 has been ratified. Moving on to C-83, is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President, C-83, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests an appropriation of $23,000 be made to the Personnel Contract Services account, the same amount to be transferred to the Stabilization Fund. This is regarding Assessment Center for Professional Exam for Police Sergeant, Police Lieutenant, and Fire Lieutenant. Once again, I had discussion today about this, and they are looking, some of these written exams were taken back in September of last year. And so they're going to finally get around. They're looking sometime in early to mid-July that they're going to have these assessment center exams done as well. And this is all just part of making sure that the department has the proper officers. And it would be my recommendation that we grant C-83, and I'll ask that you check with members of my committee.
Very well. Councilor Pauline Cormier
I agree.
and Councilor Angelini.
I'm in agreement as well, Mr. President.
Very well. You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-83. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, this will be by roll call, starting with Councilor Frida.
Yay.
Councilor Dombrowski,
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr,
Yay.
Councilor Angelini,
Yay.
Councilor Ardinger,
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier,
Yay.
Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
And I shall be recorded as yay. By a vote of 8-0, C-83 is granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, ordered that the sum of $28,000 be made to the personnel contract services account, the same amount to be transferred from the stabilization fund. Again, this is regarding the assessment center for professional examiner, police sergeant, police lieutenant, and fire lieutenant. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the order, please say yay. Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? The order is adopted by a vote of 8-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We'll now move on to legal affairs, starting with C-63. Is the chairman ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. Communication 63, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor. Request of the City Council establish the creation of a Human Rights Commission for the City of Leominster. We've had a couple of subcommittee meetings, but we're at a point, Mr. President, where we truly need the mayor's input. I'm going to ask you to poll my committee, but my recommendation at this point is that we table Community 63 until after the budget. Everyone's aware the comptroller passed away, and I think the Leominster's had the same two comptrollers, I think, since the 1950s. But we're in the process of procuring another comptroller, and budget season is right around the corner. I don't think the mayor is going to be able to give us any meaningful comments until after the budget season. I really don't. So I think the petition deserves those meaningful comments. So my position is to table this, and I will take it off the table for action after the budget hearings. I'd ask you to poll my committee.
Okay, Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
I'm not sure about tabling it, to tell you the truth. I mean, it was the mayor's petition that he submitted. So he should be able to respond with a rationale for, why and how he wanted it organized. I mean, I don't, it's dragged on, it's taken a lot of time. And I think, a lot of that was necessary. And you're right, Councilor Dombrowski, that we did have the legal affairs subcommittee meetings, but I'm not sure I agree with tabling it. I don't want to lose I don't want to lose more time, if we're not paying attention to it. And again, it was the mayor's proposal. I mean, he's the one that came in with the proposal, so it shouldn't be a heavy lift for him to be able to respond with information. So my position is I'd give it further time, but I don't want to table it, no.
All right, well, let's check with Councilor David Cormier, your position.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with the chair. I think we should table it. I certainly don't want to leave it tabled for very long, but I do think we've got some other things that we need to, take care of, and certainly get some information from, from the mayor. And I don't see that forthcoming. I understand. I mean, he's got some things going on. So let's give everybody a chance to breathe, and certainly, talk about this when our agenda lightens up. After we get through the budget and after we get a new comptroller in place. And then certainly I want to take this back up. I don't mind if we even put a time frame on it right now as to when we take it off the table, but certainly, I don't think we're going to talk about this during budget time and things of that nature. So I'll go along with tabling it.
Okay, so two members of the committee are for tabling it and one for further time. So I guess I ask you to restate your position, Mr. Chairman.
The majority position of the Legal Affairs Committee is to table this for study, with the understanding that when the budget hearings and the budget vote is over, which, we're probably talking 5 weeks, we will actually pursue it again.
All right, very well. So you've heard the recommendation, although not unanimous, from the Legal Affairs Committee. Is there any further discussion amongst the council? Okay, I will do this by roll call because we might be at least one dissent. So starting with Councilor Frida,
Yay.
Councilor Dombrowski,
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr,
Nay.
Councilor Angelini,
Yay.
Councilor Ardinger,
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier,
Yay.
Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
And I would be quoted as yay, so it's tabled by a vote of 7-1. Moving on to 71 Ways and Means, starting with 71-21. Is the chairwoman ready to report?
I am. We have a correction on 7121 though. So we'll have to amend it. J&J Consignment, request to renew license to deal secondhand articles at 41 DuPont Circle. I believe that's the owner's address that needs to be changed to 285 Central Street, according to the information I have here.
Okay, so are you moving to amend that to 285 Central?
I am.
Okay, do we have a second on that motion to amend?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilor Dombrowski. Any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor of amending the address to the appropriate 285 Central Street, please say yay. Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the petition is amended. Councilor, you can continue.
Okay, 7121 J&J Consignment, request to renew license to deal secondhand articles at 285 Central Street, Leominster. All the referrals are in from police and treasurer's office, and everything is good to go. So the recommendation would be to grant and check with other members of the committee.
Very well. Councilor Dombrowski
I agree.
and Councilor David Cormier.
I also agree.
You've heard unanimous recommendation, Ways and Means to grant 71-21. Any further discussion? All those in favor of 7121, please indicate by saying yay. Yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? 71-21 has been granted by a vote of 8-0. Moving on to 72-21. Is the chairwoman ready to report?
72-21, Best Buy stores, LP 1433, request to renew license to deal secondhand articles at 33 Orchard Hill Park Drive. Again, referrals from the treasurer's office and police department. It's all in good standing, so the recommendation would be to grant.
Okay, Councilor Dombrowski,
I agree.
Councilor David Cormier.
I also agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Ways and Means Committee to grant 72-21. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of granting 72-21, please indicate by saying yay. Yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? 72-21 has been granted by a vote of 8-0. Thank you, Councilor Frida. Moving on to public service. Is the chairwoman ready to report?
I am. Public service, 73-21. Massachusetts Electric Company doing business as National Grid, request to excavate the public highways and to run and maintain underground electric conduits together with such sustaining and protecting fixtures as it may find necessary for the transmission of electricity. Said underground conduits to be located substantially in accordance with the plan filed herewith marked Mechanic Street and Mount Pleasant Avenue, Leominster, Massachusetts. The following are the streets and highways referred to: Plan number 303-63626, Mechanic Street and Mount Pleasant Ave, rebuilding manhole number 5 at the corner of Mechanic Street and Water Street, installation of conduit under the road going east down Mechanic Street towards Mount Pleasant Avenue, doing a new manhole 5373, about 250 feet. Installation on about 300 feet of conduit from manhole 5373 up Mount Pleasant Street to new manhole 5372 on customer property with switchgear to be used in renovation of downtown underground system in the future. We'll also be coming off hole number 3 with conduit about 100 feet to manhole 5372 and out of transformer number 3, about next to manhole 5372, about 100 feet to go across the street and service customer-owned HH on private property located at the rear of 37 Mechanic Street. I had a couple of conversations with Ray Racine in regard to the letter that we had received from National Grid prior to tonight, and it seemed to have contradictory information. So I did speak with Ray, and he gave me the email chain that went back and forth, and it's just an unfortunate set of circumstances that the timing was miscommunicated somehow. But I think the DPW worked pretty diligently to try to line up gas and electric at the same time, which didn't happen. So in order to correct that, I mean, there definitely needs to be the service to downtown. There needs to be the service to Brady's in the back of number 37 Mechanic. And they also have been looking to have that street paved for a long time. So everything looking so nice now, it's a shame to dig it up, but that's what has to be done. So getting a letter to be sure that the high cost of repaving is not going to be from the taxpayer or our Chapter 90 money. National Grid has agreed. So once they and the DPW director come to an agreement and agree on a number and a time frame, because they definitely want it done by the fall, then we'll bring it back to the meeting, the next meeting for our vote. So the recommendation would be for further time.
Very well, which has been echoed by your committee already. You heard the request for further time for 73-21. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of granting 73-21 further time, please recognize by saying yay. Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? 73-21 has been given further time by a vote of 8-0. Thank you, Counselor. New business. Anything on the new business?
But just Councilor Frida, I'm guessing that anticipation of free cash is certainly warranted, and then hopefully it'll be pretty close to budget season. And it looks like from what I'm hearing, we're close to 13 million in free cash. So that'll be a good number to have to work with.
Okay. Mr. Finance Chairman, did you want to poll or check, see if we can get a consensus on your hearing dates?
Yes, I will. And as far as free cash is concerned, that's going to be explained at the next meeting. That 13 million comprises of fiscal years. We're going to be re-voting on last year's, and then this year's is in there as well. So that'll be a discussion for the next meeting. And as far as budget hearings, it is already that time. It really is hard to believe. And I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that for the budget hearings on June 15th and 16th, that we will be back in person for the first time since March of 2020. I believe, Mr. President, we're going to have our first meeting on the 14th back in the chambers as well.
That's correct.
And then on the next day, on Tuesday, and the Wednesday after that, 15th and 16th, is when our budget hearings will start. Madam Clerk is going to help me set that agenda, but I believe we are going to start at 6 p.m. on both evenings. And then on the first evening, the 15th, the mayor will present his budget and give us an overview. We will have police, fire, and DPW down, I believe, maybe not particularly in that order, but those three departments. And then the next evening, on the 16th, we will once again begin at 6 p.m. And we will have the Recreation Commission down, the library, and the school department as well. So I wanted to plan these hearings, a few weeks in advance. I know that we go through this every year, so I have to assume that everybody saw this coming and those dates are gonna work. If there's any issues with those dates from anybody from the finance committee especially, please let me know ASAP. I'm gonna be looking to set this agenda tomorrow with the city clerk so that everybody is well aware, and can, make sure that their schedule is free for those 2 evenings. And we can, get through this year's, budget hearings. It's gonna be a little different, obviously, without our comptroller, but, we have no choice but to, make our way through it. And I'm sure with all of our experience that we've had over the years, we're all pretty seasoned veterans on the city council, as well, as with the mayor and others. We will get through it and, be able to, make a recommendation on a budget for fiscal year 2022. So I would ask if anyone has any issues with the 15th and 16th on, especially on finance, is that okay? If you can check, Mr. President?
Yeah, I'll start with members of the Finance Committee, Councilor Cormier and Councilor Angelini. Those dates work for you?
Yes.
It's fine with me, Mr. President.
All right. Any member of the council generally have any pressing issue with those dates?
What are those?
Our meeting is as late as it can be in June. Our first June meeting, it's the 14th, so it sort of necessitates that I wanted to make sure these got established, and so did the finance chair. So the proposal is that we'll meet for the first time in, I think, 15 months, right? In person. On the 14th, we'll have our regular first June meeting, and then we'll have budget hearings the following 2 evenings on Tuesday and Wednesday, June 15th and June 16th.
Mr. President, this is Councilor Dombrowski. The 15th is going to be tough for me. I don't know if that matters.
Well, I don't, I mean, obviously we want to make it as accommodating as we possibly can. Anybody else have a difficulty with either the 15th or the 16th? So, I mean, I don't know if we want to slide this another day, Mr. Chairman, or what you want to do about that.
Well, I could do.
Do people have problems with the 17th?
I do. This is Councilor Shalfo Zephyr. I have a conflict with the 17th.
And I think I
I
heard
have
Councilor
conflict
Freda
as
too.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like I'm sorry, Councilor Dombrowski, but it looks like the vast majority of us can do it the 15th and the 16th, if that's okay with you.
All right, I'll do everything I can.
All right.
To rearrange things.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Councilor Cormier?
I believe that would be it.
Okay. All right. So we'll get those established. All right. Anything else on the new business? All right. Hearing none. Anything on the old business? All right.
Council President Bedanza,
Yes.
could I just ask Councilor Freda if it's okay to continue the public hearing on June 14th at 6:30 p.m. so I can set that up with them tomorrow?
Which public hearing?
For the
wait.
excavation.
Oh, okay. I thought we didn't vote on it at public hearing. Do we need to vote?
Yeah, we voted on it. We voted on it.
Did we vote on it? I apologize.
Yeah.
Yeah, we voted. Okay. So no new business. All new business is covered. All old business is covered. Before we reflect on our departed colleague, any community calendar items? All right.
Mr. President, Councilor
Yes.
Cormier?
Yes, Council Cormier.
Just quickly, and I just wanted to give a shout out and to recognize our first responders in the city, and especially our emergency management team. As I said earlier, we've had some pretty intense residential fires, and these people have, our first responders, our emergency management team is phenomenal. They've shown up. They've been a great comfort to the residents. They've also shown up for Fitchburg. So I just want a little shout out to them and recognize all their efforts.
Very well. Thank you for doing that. Anybody else have anything under the community calendar? Okay. So, we went through a very difficult period, obviously, with the loss of a dear colleague. And I wanted to give the counselors an opportunity to reflect, as we have done so often in the past, for different community members that we've lost. Does anybody want to make a public reflection on Councilor Feckley?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilor Dombrowski?
I would like this opportunity. Councilor Feckley was a great lady. She actually replaced one of my best friends on the council. But I grew to truly respect her and enjoy her company. Our families are both originally from New York City, so we had shared that bond of being quote unquote outside. Gail would often call me, before or after a meeting, and I really enjoyed the back and forth that went on during those conversations. She was graceful, principled, respectful, dignified. She brought those traits to the city council chambers. So I'm going to miss her, and anyone who got to know her will surely miss her as well. I would note that we all met her family members at the wake, and as you expect, they were all gracious and dignified and polite and respectful. And her family is truly a wonderful legacy to Gail. We should all be so lucky to leave such a legacy. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Dombrowski. Would any of the council like to offer a reflection?
Yes, this is Councilor Shalako Zephyr.
Thank you, Councilor.
It's really hard to talk about Gail. She, in working with her initially, and you know what, she replaced a good friend of mine as well when she came on the council. But Councilor Feckley really was, she was a great sounding board. She was very open-minded, and I never sensed any kind of, she never had an agenda. She came to meetings with, kind of an open mind. And I always respected her. We, didn't agree on, lots of different things and lots of different issues, but I respected her, her process and her consideration and her deliberation. I think she was very, very city-minded and civic-minded. I mean, as she was with her work, with the North Leominster Little League team and everything. And on a personal note, though, sitting next to her, she would give me the updates on her family, her sons, and in particular her grandchildren. And her, her whole demeanor would just change when she was talking about her grandchildren and she was planning her Florida trip. She just, she really just lit right up. And a little fun fact, Buffalo Wild Wings was one of her favorite places. And we used to, get together periodically, for a nice glass of wine and just some food and just chat. So I will miss, I'll miss her as a counselor. I think Councilor Dombrowski used the word respect. I had tremendous respect for Gail, and she was a straightforward and clear-eyed sounding board. She was a really valuable member of the city council and very much valued. So I will miss her, both as a colleague and very much so personally.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselor want to offer a reflection?
Yes, Mr. President, Councilor David Cormier.
Thank you, Counselor.
It's hard to believe we're mourning the loss of another one of our colleagues. It seems like we just went through this yesterday with Councilor Nickel, who was a very good friend of mine. Gail certainly replaced a very strong personality on the city council back when she got on. Dave was also a good friend of mine, and I was rooting for him, and Gail prevailed. And Gail and I, we certainly did not agree on a lot of things all the time, but one of the first things that we did together, and I explained this to her husband Mark at the wake, and I got a good chuckle out of him, was, I'm sure everybody remembers back, I believe it was in time in 2016, we had proposals for marijuana on our agenda, and we had applicants come before us, and they were willing to give us a tour of a facility. So I had never been to a facility, and I was very curious as to what went on. So Gail and I, we didn't serve on the same committee together that was deciding the fate of the applications. So I can't remember if I asked her or she asked me, but anyway, we teamed up, and one Saturday morning, it was a cold Saturday morning in February one year, we decided we were going to take a ride out to Salem to do a tour of the facility out there. And I kind of broke the ice with Gail when we were talking about going, and I told her, I said, I hope your husband isn't going to be jealous, because we're going on a date together to medical marijuana, or a recreational medical marijuana facility. And she chuckled, and she said all would be fine. So I also told her, like I said, I told her husband that story, and he chuckled as well. So Gail and I, we had a great day together, and we really got to know each other. We talked about our families, and we talked about the city council. We joked around, wondering if we were going to get any free samples when we got to the facility. And it was a great day, and that's when I really got to know Gail, and we realized that we could trust each other and respect each other and work well together. We spent the whole day together, went to lunch, and I enjoyed working with her. We always talked over things, what were things that were going on in her ward, things that were going on in my ward. She would call me for advice. I would times, and she was very well respected in this community. Started many years ago when she got involved baseball with her kids, and she's just very well known, very well respected, and she's going to be a big loss. She said she wanted to make sure that there was civility on the city council, and I think she achieved that. I think she had a very calming effect on the council, and I think we all appreciated that. So, I'm still keeping her husband Mark in my prayers, as well as her sons Mike, Ryan, and Joe. And I just want them to know that we really have a lot of respect for her. I have a lot of respect for her, and I'm going to miss her very, very much. She truly is somebody that will live in my heart forever. She sort of became like a mom to me. She offered a lot of motherly advice over her 6 or 7 years on the council, and I'll always remember that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor. Is there any other counselor that would like to offer a reflection?
Yeah, Mr. President, Councilor Frida.
Thank you, Counselor Frida.
I think two of Gail's qualities, the two things that she really cared about a lot, one was children, of all ages. She was very concerned about education, very concerned about the schools having what they needed. And it was evidenced in her 35 years at Fitchburg State College and university now. And just talking the way she did about the kids that she loved up there, and that seemed to love her just as much. Her caring about the younger children with the Little League involvement, her own sons being involved, but taking all of them under her wing like they were all her kids. And particularly for school children in the community, she really wanted the best for them. She wanted to offer them all the opportunities that Leominster could give them. I think her second deep concern was she had a connection with the police department up in New York, I believe, and she was very concerned about the police department. She wanted things to go well there. She would ask me all the time about the police station and do we think we're going to be moving forward? She says, I can't wait to see a new station. I mean, she really was pushing for that. She used to talk often with former Chief Goldman, who was one of her constituents and a friend. And, they had many conversations about the department. And she just loved what she was doing. She loved being a counselor. And as Councilor Shalafuzza mentioned, she loved, the spark of going to see her grandchildren in Florida. That was a highlight. So I think public safety and her love of education certainly describes a lot of what Gail felt and who she was. So yeah, I think we're all going to miss her.
Thank you, Councilor Frida. Any other counselor? Well, the words that come to mind for me are sobering, shocking, almost a surreal type of sense. It's still hard really to process, I think, for all of us. I wouldn't be going out on a limb to suggest that we're all trying to process this still. We all had a good relationship with Gail. Gail was a person who had tremendous dignity and respect. And, that was evident really from the beginning. I came onto the council the same time as she did. So we were sort of, learning our way and feeling our way at the same time. She had a great personality. I mean, she could be witty. She could be kind and caring, but she was always respectful, and she always respected other people's opinions. She always kept an open mind, and you could tell that she operated with great integrity. Her dad was a police officer in New York, and I'm sure that a lot of the respect for the badge and respect for people came from what had to be a very great relationship between her and her dad, and that was pretty evident in her dealings on the council. Her death is a reminder. I mean, we're all here for unfortunately a short time, and it wasn't too many weeks ago when I was talking to her, and she was going to make her way back to be fill her valuable role on the council, and I believed in every bit of that and thought she would be back with us, and lo and behold, that just didn't happen, and it's a very sad thing. Did have a chance to talk to her husband a number of times during her illness, and unfortunately after she passed. He's a wonderful man, and I am sure that they had a wonderful relationship and a good family, and that's another very strong testament to who Gail Feckley was. But we are all better for knowing her, and she won't be soon forgotten. She won't be easy to replace, and I know she will be uppermost on our minds as we try to do the best job we can with our public duty from here on in. Godspeed, Councilor Feckley. Rest in peace. Didn't wanna,
Mr. President.
it didn't have to be the last word, so if anybody else has something else to say, I'm perfectly happy
No,
to have
Mr.
that
President, this is Councilor Frieder again. I just wanted to add that it was great testimony to Councilor Feckley when 6 of us stood by her body as it was brought into the church. It showed the unity of this council, that we come together for a colleague of ours, and it was an expression of our care to her family and friends that were at that service. We sat together in the church, and we also were together as she was taken to the cemetery. So it was a great expression of our council to the family, and I think it was well received, and it said a lot about all of us and her relationship with us.
Thank you, Counselor. Is there any other counselor that wants to offer a reflection before we adjourn? Well, thank you all for that. Those notions, I'd like to think that she heard them all, and you know, I know that she will be greatly missed. That being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Ardinger. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Pauline Cormier. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, all. Have a wonderful week and good evening. We won't see you for a little while. We have the extra week in between. Be safe, be good, and we'll see you soon. In person. That'll be great. Look forward to it. Good night.
Good night.
There you go.
The Leominster City Council meeting is funded in part by DeCarolis Insurance Agency at www.decarolisinsuranceagency.com.